We ever so often crave the escape the world of fantasy offers. But what happens when that escape is shadowed by darkness? Dark fantasy doesn't hand us the typical happily ever after. Instead, it forces us to confront our worst fears and it asks, can you survive this? In these worlds, beauty isn't in its perfection. It's the struggle, the chaos, and the broken fragments of hope that manage to shine through. This isn't a place for heroes, it's a place for survivors. For those who endure despite everything the world throws at them. I think we often imagine in a world of fantasy about a destined hero or the chosen one, along with there being a clear distinction between the good and the bad of their world, creating a world of hope and promise. There is a clear future, often accompanied by a happily ever after. At some point in our lives, we've all imagined ourselves in a scenario like this, longing for an escape into a world full of adventure and glory. But what if we venture to the other side of the well? In this world, you are nothing. You are not the chosen one, you aren't destined, you are lost and insignificant. Here, there's no clear distinction between the good and the bad. Survival is the only thing that matters. No hope, no promise of a better future. Instead, you are faced with the horrors of this dark world. In the age of the ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog. A land of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire, and with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from dark they came and found the souls of the Lord within the flame. Nito, the first of the dead, the witch of Izalith and her daughters, Gwyn, the lord of sunlight and his faithful knights, and the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of the lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty bolts peeled apart their stone scales, the witches weaved great firestorms, and Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And Seath the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. What you just heard right now was the opener of the infamous dark fantasy game of Dark Souls. Notorious for being brutal, pushing you at every turn, offering you no easy way out. But that's exactly where dark beauty lies. As the opener said, the world of Lordran is dying, suffocating under its own curse. And you? You are no chosen hero. You're just another wandering soul, lost in a place that seems hell-bent on grinding you down. However, within that suffocating darkness, there's a strange, undeniable elegance. The towering ruins, along with the eerie stillness of the landscapes, and the faint, flickering bonfires, all coming together to paint the picture of a world barely hanging on by their last threads of existence. And when I say that you're an absolute nobody, I am not exaggerating. When we first load in the game, we see ourselves in a jail cell in the middle of nowhere, awaiting the inevitable end of the world. There's no heroic entrance, no grand purpose, just a bleak reality. I mean, really, just take a look at yourself. Does this beef jerky look like he's gonna save the world? But anyway, just by pure luck, you escape thanks to this random guy. We find him a little later on, and he mentions a prophecy that one day an undead will ring the bells of awakening. He is here to free an undead just like you in the hopes that the prophecy might come true. And now he doesn't tell us that we are the one. So this reveals that we really just don't matter too much. We aren't special. We are just another pawn in the game. A product of chance. But with this in mind, we enter the decaying lands of Lordran with no hope, no guarantee, and only one thing to cling on to. A goal. And that goal is something that you might not even achieve. And just like that, we are now left to fend for ourselves, piecing together the fragment clues from the characters and the decaying ruins. There are no quest markers, no missions, there's nothing guiding you, and the uncertainty is suffocating. But that's where dark fantasy separates itself from traditional fantasy. It doesn't just hand you hope on a silver platter, but that's what makes it so damn captivating. But now, at this point, a question may appear on your head. Why? What is the point of this prophecy? Are we the good guys? Are we the bad guys? A rebel? A pawn? In a world where morality is tangled and uncertain, where the very idea of right and wrong seems irrelevant, the lines blur out until you're left questioning the very purpose of your existence in this place. And I think this is where dark fantasy really shines. It doesn't just give you the answers, it forces you to confront the ambiguity of your role, to grapple with the realization that sometimes in these worlds there's no grand cosmic justice, no definitive good or evil, only survival. This can explain the game's multiple endings, each one triggering a deep reflection on whether you made the right choice. It's challenging us to really think about the consequences of our decisions, and it leaves you unsettled but utterly hooked, pulling you deeper into its mysteries as you search for meaning in a place that may never offer any. So this next part I'm gonna talk about is very different to a lot of people, so keep in mind that this is coming from my perspective and opinions. Out of all the Souls games, the world of Dark Souls is my favorite. The world itself is so beautifully interconnected together, and as I explored through Lordran, I began to really appreciate its unsettling beauty. From the crumbling castles to the mist-shrouded forests to whatever this is, this haunting beauty draws me into exploring the unknown, often dim and moody with shadows that dance along the walls, further emphasizing the decay surrounding us. Now, this area I just mentioned is Blighttown, also known as FPS Drop, Blow Dark Town, Platform Simulator, or Gravity. It is one of the most hated areas in the entire game. But not the most hated though, I think that goes to this fuck of an area. While it is hated by many, visually, I think it is one of the best areas in the game. Wait, hear me out. Okay. So it is really difficult to put into words why I like Blighttown. And don't get me wrong, I hate playing through it. And Blighttown is also absolutely terrifying. I think this is a good time to mention that I am terrible with horror. In fact, I'm just the guy who chickens out when our friend group is playing a Roblox horror game. I think my visual appeal of Blighttown comes from The Hobbit. If you haven't watched the Hobbit trilogy, basically in the first movie there's an area called the Goblin Town. And it is this vast network of crude wooden bridges, ladders, and platforms suspended over bottomless chasms. The entire town is dimly lit by flickering fires casting along long shadows across the jagged, cavernous terrain. The structures are makeshift, with crooked towers and walkways that seems to be on the verge of collapsing at any moment. The town is a maze of tunnels, passageways, all interconnected together in a disorganized manner. But for whatever reason, this town that was supposed to give a displeasing vibe had the very opposite effect on me. For some reason, I found this type of architectural design to be very cool and unique. The blend of dim lighting with its distinctive structures gave the town an unsettling vibe, but at the same time, it has a strangely comforting atmosphere. There's just something about a run-down underground city that has always appealed to me. Take Zaun from League of Legends as an example. I think it's the appreciation of grim beauty, where darkness and ruin creates a strangely compelling charm. Or another example I can think of right now is the City of Ember. The design and the overall feel of Goblin Town matches the green beauty of places like Blighttown and Dark Souls. So I think that is why a place like this really has resonated with me. It's a world that thrives on atmosphere, where every area feels like a work of art. The game is a journey through a world of beauty and despair, and as you navigate the destruction, you've come to realize that there's something profoundly moving about witnessing the remnants of what once was, urging you to reflect on the morality of all things, and ultimately enhancing your experience in this dark, and hauntingly beautiful world. Now take a look at this. This is Anne Orlando, and it stands in contrast to the crumbling ruins and decaying landscapes of Lordran. While it's absolutely beautiful, the disturbing and frightening themes of dark fantasy are ever still present. We are first greeted by a grand ethereal city, bathed in golden light. And for a city so grand like this, we would expect it to be bustling with life. But instead, as we explore the city a little more, it almost feels deserted. There's an overwhelming sense of isolation and disturbance. At first glance, the city doesn't look destroyed. Its halls still stand tall and the architecture remains intact. But beneath that, there's a quiet, more subtle kind of ruin. The city is dead in all but appearance. This type of decay isn't about physical destruction. It's about emptiness, stagnation, and the slow, invisible rot that consumes even the most beautiful places. This contrast creates a deeper, more disturbing sense of ruin than any crumbled tower or body-filled wastelands ever could. And I think this is precisely why I love dark fantasy. It really challenges traditional narratives and forces us to confront the complexities of existence. In dark fantasy, beauty is often intertwined with sorrow, and grandeur often masks a deeper emptiness. It's a world where perfection is an illusion, and the struggle for survival reveals the fragility of life and hope. Along with its open endings, it really gets you to think about your decisions and reflect upon them. And like I said, it rarely ever hands anything to you. Instead, it asks you to find the beauty and the wonders within the dark world, to find value in what is broken and to appreciate what is left. And I think that is exactly what I did with this game. This world challenged me to reframe how I see beauty, not as something pristine or perfect, but as something that persists despite the scars and brokenness. And I think that is the heart of dark fantasy. A world that endures, imperfect yet deeply meaningful, where beauty lies not in what is whole, but what has survived.